Giles. I met my wife, Shirley, in 1963. We were students at the Central Washington State College. We were married a year later, and Shirley contracted polio in 1952 when she was 18. Now, I met her at Central Washington State College. We were taking a class together, Washington history, in the second story of one of the buildings there on campus. There was no elevator, and so she was sitting at the bottom of the stairs, just sitting there, and I asked if there was something I could do to help. And she said she had a class at the upper level. So another student and I lifted her, carried her up the flight of stairs to the second floor where we had the same class together. So I got pretty well acquainted with her. So for that entire quarter, we carried her up the stairs and down the stairs, up the stairs and down the stairs. That was pretty typical of all the classes on campus. There were some of the buildings that were built on one level, so access to those was not a problem. But to all the other classes, she had to go to the second floor. The administration, when they allowed her to come to school, she asked if she could come to school there. The administration told her yes, but they could not be able to assist her to get to her classes. That was something she would have to do on her own. Any of the classes that were on the second floor, she had to make arrangements to get herself there and back again. Now, at that time, I don't think there was one building on campus that had an elevator. So we had to be very careful about where we could schedule her classes. And sometimes some of those required classes were only offered once in a year. So you had to take them when they were offered and where they were offered. We would travel to Utah, Colorado, other places, and there were no handicap facilities available. There were no rest areas. None of that existed. So we had to go to the bathroom. We'd go to service station after service station after service station to try and find one that would have a bathroom big enough that she could get in, go to the bathroom, and be taken care of. The same with restaurants. Access to the sidewalks and from the street was the same. There weren't any. In 1970, in 74, in 75, the law was changed. I became the director of special ed. I was appointed the director of special ed in 1974. And so I saw what the conditions were like before the law, and I saw what happened after the law was passed. Now, after the law was passed, and the districts had to accommodate children, special education, an IEP, their individual education plan, written up with input of the parents, then we saw a lot of changes made, a lot of good changes in the lives of those children. Now, it just didn't affect the school districts. It affected cities, counties, people, access to from the street to the sidewalks had to be cut so they could get in. Restaurants now had to start planning for handicapped people and making accommodations for them. The same thing with all the public buildings. So in Shirley's case, when we would travel, after we were married and before the law became effective in 75, there were no handicapped accessible rest areas, places where the handicapped people could use the restrooms. There were no restaurants that had access for people in a wheelchair. And so all that started to change. Now, today, If you were to drive from here to Utah, there about every 50, 70 miles, there is a handicapped accessible restroom in a rest area. No problem today. Back then, you never found one.